And the reason why I'm standing for the mayoralty again for my fourth term is I haven't finished the job yet. This role is not a short-term role, it's a long-term role, and I viewed that a number of years ago when I stood for the mayoralty in 2004. So yes, we'll be there again, and as I said, I'm only halfway through my role, and the challenges and the achievements are significant in what we've achieved in those last 8.5 years. My greatest achievement, I believe, is improvement in lake water quality. We've seen in 2004 our lakes of Te Arawa were toxic. We saw the algal blooms, and I had coming into Rotorua a mandate from the people to clean up the lakes, and we have seen significant improvements. In fact, Lake Rotoiti was probably in 2011 named the most improved lake in New Zealand. And then last year for Rotorua, it was the best water quality it had been since the 1990s. So that's a significant improvement for Rotorua. And all the other ones, we've got action plans, we've got programs, initiatives for improving lake water quality. So we're seeing the results of that hard work started in 2004. For RDC, we've seen significant constructions of sewage schemes.
Does it really matter for people who vote who is the Mayor of Rotorua?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, different people have different agendas. I was voted on with my background in agricultural science to get on and do these lake water quality initiatives, and we've seen that. Also being a very practical person and being a very common sense person. I mean, we've seen a significant improvement in our venue facilities that we've had in the last 9 years also. We've seen the museum behind me, $23 million improvement. We've seen the aquatic centre improve. The Energy Event Centre, which has been a world-class facility on our doorstep to bring new events, new venues, new sports conferences to Rotorua. So yeah, the importance is people who have the drive, who have the integrity, who have the credibility of getting the job done. And I've always said all along, I'll get this job done, and I'm committed to doing that into the future.
Sure. Obviously, it's a challenging time with the economic collapse around the world. How has Rotorua come through that?
We've actually come through pretty well. As I said, with our Energy Event Centre, if we didn't have that venue, we would have seen a lot of lost trade through conferences, business, those big conferences coming town that supported our hotels, motels, cafes and restaurants. So if we didn't have that, we would have been severely restricted. The GFC has also impacted on our airport. That was a long-term strategic development. We knew that when we started in 2004, and so it hasn't gone as well as we anticipated. But we've got the facility, we can now add on new destinations, new service capacity, and we're having talks with new airlines and the existing airlines as we speak. So, you know, we've got the facility. The only way up now for the airport is up.
I mean, you talked about those events, like the Event Centre
Yep.
and museum and the airport, which are really good. One of the things with the global financial crisis is debt.
Yep.
And
council debt.
Yeah, well, and I guess, are you do you remain comfortable with?
Oh, when you look at the way the debt has broken down and what we've done to achieve that about $150 million debt, you have to realise we're only spending about 9% per annum on interest payments. That's very low. That's about the medium for local government. Then you have to look at our asset to debt ratio. We look after over $1 billion worth of assets. When I came to this job, it was about $380 million worth of assets. So we've grown the business completely in the last 8 years. Also, our debt has gone up, but that's actually a good mechanism to get long-term strategic assets for our community And these are assets that will last for 50 to 100 years. For example, sewage schemes. We're debt funding a lot of those. Great. Those are long-term assets, and people said that's part of the big picture of improving lake water quality. Yes, we've funded an airport from debt, but again, it's a long-term strategic asset for the growth, for the economic development of our community. And I'm just going to see what else we've put in our debt too, because I can't remember. We've done significant developments at our wastewater treatment plant, funded by debt, because people want to see that our effluent disposal systems are the best we can possibly buy. Another debt-funded facility. We've got about $30 million in debt on roading infrastructure. And, you know, people want to go to work efficiently in the morning, they want to get to their business, and if we didn't have proper infrastructure for our roading facilities, they would be complaining to me. So again, another debt-funded facility, piece of infrastructure, long-term facility for our community.
You mentioned that the council was running as a business, if you like, and it's a pretty
it's a big business.
Big business. It's one of the biggest businesses in town.
Yeah.
And of course, you have to relate to other businesses.
Yeah.
How do you think the relationship is with the business community?
I think it's the best it's ever been. I mean, we have a very good dialogue with the Chamber of Commerce. They came to us about 2 years ago and said, Mr. Mayor, you have to do more for economic development for our community. And so we consulted widely with the Rotorua Business Leaders Group, and we've come up with Grow Rotorua. It's a CCO, council-controlled organisation. We've appointed directors who have appointed a CEO, and they are charged with growing the economic development for our community. So, Chamber of Commerce saw a problem, came to us, we're leading it, we have a CCO in place, and you know that's going to deliver huge results. And that's why I want to carry on being mayor, because I want to drive that CEO to deliver what we said it has to deliver in 3 years' time. So again, I'm very hands-on in this role. I'm a director of the airport because I'm hands-on. I want to see the airport company grow, and using that asset to drive the economic viability of this community.
One of the challenges that you had earlier on, I think, was around Niagasi, that whole Niagasi, and the background to that. The challenge of personal crime and family risk sort of situations. How is that? How do you see that having developed?
Yeah, I get a bit emotional every time I hear Nia, because she haunts me every day.
Sure.
Dear little girl, murdered on my patch, murdered on my watch, and I get emotional because our community let that little girl down. So since Nia died, I've instigated the Rotorua Safer Families campaign, and we have now engaged with all those Crown agencies to deliver better services, take the silo mentality out of all those delivery agencies. How do you work together? How do police communicate with the DHB through SIFs, WINS, all those NGOs that work in the area of domestic family violence? That's why I wear the white ribbon, because I'm absolutely passionate about anti-domestic family violence. So yeah, Nia's a bit of a driving force for me, because I want to resolve that big issue within Rotorua and make sure our agencies work better together.
Do you have any thoughts on any new initiatives?
Oh, the new initiatives are coming out. I mean, that's why Paula Bennett announced late last year that we and Whangarei were going to be the pilot program for her white paper. And I was just so delighted about that. And she said to me, Kevin, the reason why we're choosing Rotorua is just so far advanced in terms of getting your heads around domestic family violence, and you're making a difference already. And we're seeing a trend down in young children being abused by their parents, uncles, aunts, all that sort of thing, family members. So we're on a roll now, and I want to continue to be mayor to continue that work too, because Nia is very precious to me and she keeps driving me.
I guess if re-elected,
Yep.
What would be what would you want to achieve in the next term, as far as?
There's a number of issues I want to achieve. Carry on with lake water quality improvements, carry on with economic development, drive our CCO, drive our tourism committee, because that was another one that the community wanted, to improve the visit industry reputation, to improve the reputation of Rotorua. I also want to engage better with the Crown, because we're seeing a lot more legislation coming out of New Zealand government for local government. We saw the way they did it to Auckland, and not a good way of engaging with your community, legislating with a piece of paper, with a pen. So I want to engage across the Bay of Plenty better than we've done in the past, and in fact I'm leading the charge in that already through better integrated planning for the Bay of Plenty right across the Bay of Plenty, and so I want to lead that piece of work as well. I mean, the Crown is giving us new legislation. We saw the new Local Government Amendment Act, so the 4 wellbeings have gone. I'm still coming to grips with the legislation about what it means that we can and cannot get involved in. I mean, if my community wants me to get involved in something, I will, and we've always done that. For example, Safe City Guardians, where that's continuing on. It's a bit of a policing role, but our community want to feel safe. They do feel safe with our Safe City Guardians. So the bigger picture is getting used to new legislation. You know, Christchurch changed everything, big time. New earthquake standards, new building codes, the Building Act is changing, and so we have to get our handle on that to future-proof our economy, our infrastructure for and if any big events happen in Rotorua. And you know, it's not a matter of when, it's just if.
Christchurch, as you mentioned, and I guess the Auckland situation, yep, have kind of changed the whole ball game, if you like, for local government.
Yep.
How was Rotorua placed, and what do you think we're going to manage our way through that?
Yeah, I think because I'm leading this piece of work across the Bay of Plenty, there's three, through the Local Government Commission, there's 3 parts of New Zealand that are looking at some form of amalgamation restructuring. Northland, Hawke's Bay, Great Hawke's Bay and Wellington. The Bay of Plenty is not even on the radar of the Crown, because we're actually working really well together through regional government, all the 6 TLAs, and we're connecting with our community. So we're actually doing all those back of house services already. We're doing shared services right across the district. I mean, we do a joint venture with Hamilton City Council and Palmerston North City Council. So we're buying the best shared services that we can, be it in the Bay of Plenty or be it elsewhere. So for the Bay of Plenty and Rotorua in particular, we're actually leading the charge for New Zealand of working together across the Bay. So whilst there's no amalgamation plans at the moment, who knows what could happen into the future, but I want to be part of that debate, leading the Bay of Plenty anyway, and I'm doing that through our integrated planning work stream that is being initiated this week.
I guess one of the things with Christchurch and Auckland has been the whole building process. Yep. At the moment, I guess we haven't got the inflows of people, the pressure to worry too much, but I guess we have to adjust, don't we?
We have to adjust. I mean, every commercial building in the CBD has to be earthquake rated, and there are a lot of buildings that are not up to scratch, so landlords need to take that. They need to get their engineers' assessments done. They need to come up to the building code so that their tenants feel safe and the community feels safe in some of those older buildings. And there's work going on right now of earthquake proofing our buildings in our CBD. So residential's not too many problems because then they are pretty well built according to the building standards, and I can't remember the figure, but We do a pretty good job making sure our homes are built. I think we only have 5 leaky homes at Aotearoa, so that's sort of good going forward as well in terms of our building inspection.
It's a big cost for companies.
Oh, huge.
Huge. For any upgrade, of course.
Yep.
How can the council actually help them smooth the way through, to make that less onerous, if you like?
Once you've got your engineer's report, we look at it and say, yep, we think that's the right way to go. So we don't actually fund any of that earthquake-prone building work, but we make sure that our inspectors are up to speed, that it runs smoothly in terms of the inspection process, and we sign it off as soon as we can so that tenants can move in. So yeah, it's a big cost. But I look at Christchurch and think, you have to do it. You just have to do it.
What is the average turnaround time for a
building consent?
Building consent?
We're getting very good. When I took office in 2004, I think our building consent, resource consent was sort of 50% within the first 21 days, that statutory time frame that they had to be issued by. Now, the last figure I saw was about 95% of our building consents, resource consents, get granted within the 21 days statutory time frame. It's a really good improvement, and that's how we can help business across the community. When they come to us with a building issue, yep, we can tick all the boxes as soon as possible, and then they can get on the construction. That's how we do business. Smoothing out, we still are the regulator, we still have to enforce the rules, but through our building division, planning division, we can make sure we're playing our part in economic development by making sure that consenting process is done as efficiently as possible.
Sure, and I guess just one final thing.
Yep.
While you are the mayor,
yep,
you're still a resident of Rotorua.
Yep.
What do you think electors should be looking at regarding the candidates in the forthcoming election?
I think they want to be human. I think they want to be approachable. I think as a resident, when I'm operating a business, I see council as less is good. I want infrastructure so I can go to work, take the kids to work. I want to be able to get to work as soon as possible, no delays. I want water supplied, wastewater taken away, good roading, good infrastructure. As a resident, I just want to be able to go about my normal business. And then if I have an issue with council, I want to be able to come in here and it's solved very quickly. And that's the sort of organisation I'm driving for the future, that residents just want to get on with their lives, their work, their families, their schooling of their kids, and they don't want council interfering too much in that process. And so I'm making sure that if they have an issue, it's solved, and if we can't solve it, we get in some resources to help them. So less is more, actually, for residents of Aotearoa in terms of council, because if you're not dealing with us on a day-to-day basis, that's good, because we're doing our job properly.